Hey guys, this is Daniel Dr. D, and I decided that since I've been using the ST70 over the course of the past couple of weeks, I felt it was a reasonable enough time to give you a fair assessment of my opinion on, how the sounds differ, how the two amplifiers are. And what I've decided to do is I have two ST35s, one in each room, and then I have the ST70. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep one of the ST35s, let go of one of the other ones, and use the ST70 in one of the rooms. So I have an option to have both, and depending on the sound signatures desired. And so first, just a couple of things about the mechanics. These are both based on the original circuits. They both have stock tubes. I'll also be giving you a sound demo so you can hear how the two differ, which is very subtle, by the way, but I'll go into more of those details in a moment. There are differences, but I'll get to that in a moment. The chassis are stainless steel, so unlike the originals that had those, those metal chrome ones that rusted, these won't have that rust. And like I say, both based on the original circuits, I don't think I could ever go back to any other kind of Dynaco outside of the original circuit now, because after hearing these, it's just like no going back. And it does have a profound difference on sound quality. And I think I get the idea where David Hafler was going on the circuit on that ST70 now, and I have a greater appreciation for it. Obviously, the mechanics are very similar in size as far as width, but you can see the ST70 is more massive. The ST35 puts out 17.5 watts per channel. This is 35 watts per channel. Both have the ability to have 4 ohm and 8 ohm taps on the rear. They both do in this case. Now, if you want these kind of taps that you see on the ST70 to be used on the ST35, you just got to go in knowing that you're going to have to select either 4 ohm, 8 ohm, or 16 ohm, or whatever it is. You can't have 4 ohm and 8 ohm taps if you're using these kind of taps on an ST35. There's just not enough space for it. So you can use banana plugs, but Kenny over at getdynaco.com supplies these little adapters here that allow you to use banana plugs, and it just makes it easier to pull them in and out. So I get the option to do 4 ohm and 8 ohm on the ST35, and I highly recommend you do the same, because like the Lee Audio open baffle speakers, which I've reviewed, those are 4 ohm speakers, and it's nice to have that flexibility if you ever chose to do so. I'm using stock tubes in both. The stock tubes are the Nestone EL34s. On the ST35, I have the Nestone EL84s on here. I personally like these tubes. I have a full set of Mullards match quads like I do here, and it's really difficult to discern much difference, to be honest with you. And there's some cases where tubes can make a bit of difference, and there's some cases where they just don't make that much difference at all. In fact, some cases none. And it just depends how amplifiers respond to the tubes. And best thing to do is just sit down and listen to them, and make your own assessment and judgment on what you think. On the front end tubes, on the input tubes on the ST35, it's the Electro-Harmonix 12DW70H on the front end there. And then on the ST70, they use the Sylvania 6U8As on the front there on the input tubes. These are all USA made tubes. These are USA, and these are Russian, like I stated. The Mullards are from Great Britain. I have those on the other ST35 in the other room. And if I were to compare the tubes, I would just say that if you're looking for just a little bit more sparkle on the top end, those Mullards will deliver that. But I find that the sound signature as it sits is good as it is. It's perfect as it is. It's not like I have to have the Mullards in here. I've been listening to the ST35 here for the past week with just the stock tubes. So that should tell you something. And I'm using them with these highly efficient Klipsch Fortes. And 17.5 watts is a ton of power when you're, when you're working with efficient speakers like this. And something interesting that I think you'll find interesting is that if I were to turn, say, the volume up to 9 o'clock here, position, I can't really hear any difference in this volume between the two. They both sound like the same volume. They both sound the same. So it may have something to do with the gain on this. I don't know. It's okay. That's not a big concern, in case you guys are wondering. I don't really reach any volume levels where I reach the limits of either of these amplifiers. I mostly got it just to see how they differed, because after I heard that the ST35 is based on the original circuit, it made me curious about the ST70 with more power. And I suppose if you have less efficient speakers, the 70 is going to be a good option. But I cannot fathom how this wouldn't work with 90 dB efficient speakers already. And this, I would imagine, just gives you gobs of power, current and whatnot. So it should be fine there. As far as, let's see, the other things to cover here, they both have the covers. I have the covers sitting here for both of them have that. So they come with that standard, so you're aware. The solid state rectifiers are standard on both now. And I would just tell you the ST35 comes with solid state only, is my understanding. And then you have the option to use a tube rectifier on the ST70. I'm just telling you, I will never go back to the tube rectification. I just don't see any need for it. There's no compromise in sound. This is absolutely, unquestionably the finest of the ST70s I've ever heard. I mean, it's not even the same. It just sounds totally different from any of the other ST70s I've ever heard. And it could be the combination of these caps and everything, all these resistors and things. I don't know. It's you just got to sit down and listen to this stuff and really see, what your likes and dislikes are. And the truth is, it's really, gear is about matching things. It's not about one thing is just necessarily going to be a better thing than another. It's really about matching components. I can't stress that enough. And I will tell you, sound-wise, between the two, incredibly, this has a slightly sweeter sound to it, which is mind-boggling to me, because the Latino and the Vincent had more of that modern sound. And it took time for me over time to determine that, hey, it wasn't really the direction I wanted to go with these particular speakers, even though they're still a great match. But I was looking for a sweeter kind of sound as I grew over the years with this, and I started finding out what I liked. And this has a slightly sweeter sound, but this has a slightly more holographic sound to it. It has a little bit more airiness to it going on. And the mid-range is just fantastic on this. The EL34, my understanding is they're supposed to be a great mid-range tube. And I'm telling you, I had KT88s on my Bob Latino amp, man. I don't hear what this is. The bass that comes out of this is insane. And the same with this. There was that review I was talking about where there were the mention of that the ST35 didn't quite have the thunder of the ST70. I'm going to tell you, man, this little thing stands up. And I'm going to do a sound demo at the end of this. I'm going to, it's going to chime into a sound demo comparing both at the same volume with the same song, and I'll let you be the judge. But I don't know if the sounds that I'm describing to you will come out in the videos. You're going to want to wear earbuds or some kind of earphones to hear it, to try and make an assessment of it. But I really like both, and what I've determined that is because this has a slightly more warmer, rolled off sound, and this is a little bit more detailed, a little bit more holographic sounding, and it's still sweet anyway. So I'm going to use the ST70 with my Heresy 2s in my other room, because they can use a little bit of that softness or that warmth to help kind of offset that top end that they deliver. The Klipsch Forte is a little bit more of a mature speaker. It's because it's a full range speaker, and the Heresy was designed as really apparently a center channel speaker for the Klipsch horn. So it really is more of a mid-range kind of speaker, but the way I have it set up in the room, it just sounds fantastic. And I think with the ST70, it'll be a good match. ST35 also works good. I mean, man, you just can't go wrong with either of them. But just because of that very subtle, slight difference with this, I'll use this on the Heresy 2s. Yeah, man, so that's my take on it. And you guys can be the judge. I'm going to put the videos on next, so I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. All right, guys, so the amplifier that I'm going to be playing here is the ST70. I want you to know what I've decided I'm going to do so you can hear the relative differences in volume. I've left the preamp at the 12 o'clock position on the Dynaco Pass. This Dynaco tends to have less gain on it compared to the Aretha. So don't worry about any of the, that it's louder or anything like that. What I'm trying to get you to hear is the difference in loudness between the gain between the ST70 and the ST35. When I do the next video, which will be the ST35, I'm going to have the volume set at 12 o'clock exactly the same way. Everything is set exactly the same. The only differences are the amplifiers, nothing more. All right, so here we go. So now I have the ST35 hooked up. The volume is set to the 12 o'clock position, exactly the same. So you'll see the relative difference in the actual amount of, sound these things put out. Okay, here we go.